Hello, I want to invite you to this discussion where we want to look at profession as well as regulatory bodies. In the discussion, we want to look at what is meant by profession, the levels of professionals, the characteristics of a professional, and then we shall conclude by looking at the role of professional bodies. It is an important area, especially in the field of work and occupation, which affects the standards as well as quality of work and service provision. They are important drivers in the field of work and occupation. It is therefore my appeal to you that we listen carefully to the discussion and then, where necessary, note down issues that are not clear so that we can spare some time and have a discussion on them once more. Welcome. Profession may be defined as a distinct field of study with specific area of practice and the conduct of its members is regulated by professional and regulatory bodies. Professional is now a person who has received a reasonable level of training in his or her field of specialization and is affiliated to a professional body. Professionals generally exhibit certain fundamental characteristics which is informed by their trainings. They also exhibit reasonable capacity to perform diligently and faithfully in their areas of specialization. When we talk about professional, or rather profession, a profession is the broader field. For instance, medicine, the profession; psychology, the profession; sociology, profession; economics, the profession. Now, the people who practice a good profession are the ones we call professionals. You become a professional after you have undergone rigorous training, and not just that. A professional is also one that also show certain characteristics which generally is influenced by the kind of training he or she in the wings. But beyond that, it's also expected of a professional to undertake his or her tasks diligently and in a faithful and trustworthy manner. There are basically three levels of a profession, or professionals can be categorized into three levels. One is what we call the specialist. Who is a specialist? As far as where professionalism is concerned, a specialist is normally the entry point to the profession, and a specialist is assigned specific role in the organization. For instance, if we take a sector like teaching, say the university, a professional is normally the lowest cadre in the teaching profession within the university. Is the entry point, and they go with the titles such as teaching assistant, technologist, assistant lecturer, tutorial fellows, among others. It is normally the entry point to any profession. They are assigned the role of orientation, say for new students, if you are speaking in the context of an university environment. They guide students on writing assignments. They guide students during group discussions. They also guide students when they are doing library research. They also assign some teaching roles, although not major ones. For instance, they can be assigned subtopics under the guidance of senior lecturer or professors, so that what they are given is an extended part of their on-the-job training. One works at this stage for not less than 5 years before he or she matures enough for the next level of professionals, so that in any given entry, it is not easy for somebody entering into a profession for the first time to be given complex tasks. They are normally assigned simple tasks, and they also work under more experienced professionals, so that they learn how to handle complex issues, and they will remain at that level for between 3 to 5 years. It is assumed that in a fairly busy work environment, the knowledge and experience of 3 to 5 years is adequate enough to now enable the individual to rise up the ladder professionally. The next level of professional is called the generalist. This professional administers and coordinates programs cutting across functional areas. They are usually among the top ranking people in the organization, and as such, they are expected to know all about issues related to a particular department. They oversee the implementation of major policies affecting the profession in a particular organization. Within a university setup, the generalist may be such personnel as heads, rather as deputy vice chancellors, say in charge of academics. Their major task is to translate university's corporate strategy into academic policies, which are then transmitted to schools or faculties and even departments. In other organizations, the generalists would go with a title such as head of department or branch managers. This is an important level in terms of organizational structure. They are actually called the middle level managers. Their task is to translate organization's broader policies into smaller units that are then directed to specific areas within the organization for purposes of implementation. The third and most influential level of professional is called executive. This is a top level professional, and they go with the titles such as president, chief executive officer, managing directors, chief operations officers, among others. Their main responsibility is to link organization's corporate policies and divisional responsibilities. A professional executive is required to have attained, say, a minimum university education, many years of experience in senior management, additional training, and a high level of integrity. A professional at this level has the opportunity to rise. Rather, a professional has the opportunity to rise from a specialist to executive through continuous education and work experience. In science-oriented professions, science-oriented professions place emphasis on research as a basis of upward mobility. As promotions are tied to extensive research. If we look at this in the context of a university environment, then this group cadre of personnel would be professors and associate professors. For one, to rise up the ladder from a tutorial fellow or assistant lecturer to lecturer, senior lecturer, associate professor, and then full professor, one must have engaged in serious academic endeavors. They include research, they include supervising students at the highest level possible, including students who are taking PhD studies. They also include, in some organizations, directorship in corporate organizations, as well as the changes or other significant developments somebody has brought in the community, either in terms of membership in organizations or in terms of initiating life-changing programs in the university. All these would earn an individual the title executive. It is assigned to them because it is believed that the experience they have gained in work, in research, and in community work is extensive enough that enables them to understand a lot of issues pertaining to their field of specialization. So this is the highest level of professionals. Regarding which sector, the way one ascends to this level may differ. Otherwise, in the academic sector, you must engage in extensive research and serious scholarship for you to achieve this status. Let us now look at the characteristics of a professional or a profession. One is the aspect of specialization. Specialization is achieved through possession of a specialized body of knowledge. Specialization helps professionals to effectively discharge their assigned tasks. This is because they have deeply studied and understood issues within their field. And because of that extensive exposure, they are able to handle many things that fall within their field of study or field of specialization. For example, physicians have relevant knowledge about disease diagnosis, treatment of the disease, as well as patient counseling. They also understand other issues relating to drug therapy, drug interactions, and drug selections, among others. So you only become a professional through specialization. So one of the most outstanding characteristics of a professional is the fact that they are specialized in a given area. A professional is required not to know everything, but to know a few things, but to know it deeply, so that they are able to assess and understand issues from a very unique angle or from a very unique perspective. And because that is possible, because they undergo extensive training in any given field. So for one to become a professional, they must acquire a specialized knowledge through specialized training. Another important characteristic of professionals is to do with fairness and justice. Professionals are required to have a set of specific attitudes towards their work, given that they provide vital services to humanity. However, they are expected to offer their services at reasonable costs, in indiscriminate manner, and with all appropriate attention. Every decision they make in the course of their career should be guided by their sense of what is right, not what is profitable. Fairness, justice, and equality to all should be the guiding principles in any professional work. Take, for instance, the case of a doctor. Doctors are required to attend to patients indiscriminately, even if they are their personal enemies. The moment they fall sick, they are required to attend to them faithfully and wholeheartedly. During times of war, for instance, today, with an ongoing war in the Balkans, the Middle East, that's not in Eastern Europe, between Russia and Ukraine. If some Russian forces are injured in Ukraine and they're taken to hospitals in Ukraine, it is expected of Ukrainian doctors to exercise fairness and justice by faithfully and wholeheartedly treating those soldiers. This is despite the fact that the soldiers is from an invading army. They cannot allow the political differences between their two countries cloud their judgment and therefore refuse to provide services that these people deserve. So the professionals, they require to at all times show fairness, show justice, and being available to every person that requires the professional services. Any form of discrimination, if reported, might lead to the cancellation of the professional license certificate that has been offered by a regulatory or professional body. Another characteristic of professional is that it is licensed. Professional is regulated by an established corporate body through licensing of the practice. Why is it important for professionals to be licensed? Licensing aims at protecting the public against exploitation by incompetent practitioners. This is important because for one to be given the license by the respective professional body, then the person must show proof of knowledge and qualification in the area that he or she is seeking a license to practice in. So the person must be properly trained before he can be certified so through the provision of a license. So licensing is given so that we weed out people who are not properly trained or people who are not trained at all in the provision of services that ought to have been provided by professionals. So licensing separates qualified and non-qualified individuals in any given area of practice. But licensing also helps in increasing public faith in the professionals. For instance, if you visit a doctor and you establish that the doctor is not licensed, then you become doubtful as to whether that doctor is not only qualified, but also whether he or she will provide quality services. So licensing is also done to improve the public faith on the professionals. The regulatory body also provides code of ethics to guide professional practice and interaction with the public, so that licensing also reinforces the desire by the professional association and regulatory bodies where certain professionals belong to ensure that those particular professionals, they abide by set guidelines. Otherwise, if a person violates certain code of ethics or regulations that he or she is required to have, then the license can be cancelled, so that it helps in creating a relationship of trust between society and professionals. When you're licensed, then your integrity, your acceptability, the way that the public become more receptive to you because they believe that you are qualified. So, you must observe the code of ethics for that license to continue being offered. And that's why the licenses can be revoked rather than withdrawn if it is proved that there are certain unethical conduct that a given professional has been engaging in. Those licenses can be withdrawn and the practice will be rendered irrelevant and illegal. The next level of professional is called the generalist. This professional administers and coordinates programs cutting across functional areas. They are usually among the top ranking people in the organization, and as such, they are expected to know all about issues related to a particular department. They oversee the implementation of major policies affecting the profession in a particular organization. Within a university setup, the generalist may be such personnel as heads, rather as deputy vice chancellors, say, in charge of academics. Their major task is to translate university's corporate strategy into academic policies, which are then transmitted to schools or faculties and even departments. In other organizations, the generalists will go with a title such as head of department or branch managers. This is an important level in terms of organizational structure. They are actually called the middle level managers. Their task is to translate organizational broader policies into smaller units that are then directed to specific areas within the organization for purposes of implementation. Another important characteristic of professional is what we call continuous learning. Continuous learning and professional development is essential for professionals. They are expected to undertake self-appraisal to determine areas of knowledge content. From time to time, as they interact in the professional field, it is possible for a professional to know areas that are coming out to challenging and which might require of him to undertake further training, whether on-the-job training or formal training, to enhance knowledge and understanding of those issues. They are then expected to seek further learning through further education, attending conferences and workshops, so that if doctors call conferences, psychologists call conferences and workshops, it is expected of professionals to attend, because attendance or participation in this workshop offers opportunities for professionals to interact with their peers from other parts of the world, and also with other professionals in other sectors. And through that interaction, they are able to exchange views and understand the sectoral issues and how, and also to learn from each other. It's also expected of professionals to regularly share their knowledge and work experience through publication in refereed journals. Right? Professionals are required to continuously publish, continuously engage in academic pursuits, so that whatever new information they gather through research, they are required to share what they have gathered with other professionals in other parts of the world. And this is done through publication of their findings in journals, refereed journals. That way, if you are a professional in Kenya, then professionals in the US, in the UK, in other parts or in other parts of the world are able to get access to the knowledge that you've generated and also being able to learn something from what you've done. Similarly, as a professional based in Kenya, going through what others have done also enhances the knowledge. It means therefore that part of continuous learning is also continuous reading of professionally developed researches and publications, because through that you then get to learn a lot of things that are going on in your field of visualization. Let us now turn our attention to the roles of professional bodies. One of the roles of professional bodies and professional associations is to define standards, standard practice. So professional registration bodies define the standard of professional conduct of practitioners in a number of ways. First, the professional bodies define minimum qualifications and knowledge of entrance into the profession, including theoretical and practical knowledge. If you are an engineer at diploma level, a degree level, or whatever level, the professional body of engineers would define the qualifications that you must have for you to be admitted as or accepted as an engineer at any given level. So that through that they know that you have met and acquired enough theoretical practical knowledge that offers you confidence to discharge the responsibility that may be assigned to you in that particular field. Second, the association also encourages continuous career development programs for members to enhance and broaden their skills. This is also part of defining the standards. Standards here do not just mean the basic minimum standard that is required, but standards here also mean quality work. So, continuous learning enables professionals to learn new methods of work and also to learn new knowledge, which, if put into practice, make them more effective and efficient in their work. The professional registration body may also consider quotas so that limit is placed on the number of people and accredited in various levels to ensure that the field is not flooded. If, for instance, we produce so many doctors that the country needs, then we are likely now to have the standards being low. Because when there are so many, it becomes quite difficult to provide them, to offer them training, to pay them well, and in the process, they may start engaging in survival tactics by either offering too little, rather offering their services at an economical level cost, that is too little, they charge too little because they're now struggling to survive, or they may now start engaging in unethical practices as a means of earning a livelihood. So this has to be curtailed. How is it done so? Done by creating a limit so that admission to the university, admission to colleges is not just that open. Professional associations need from time to time to assess the human needs requirements in that particular area. If the number is too low, they will advise for enrollment to be increased. If the number is too high, again, they will advise for enrollment to be reduced. So that by doing so, it helps in maintaining the high standard and the high level of integrity. Professionals don't just define standards, they also go further and enforce the standard. Because coming up to the standard is one thing, their enforcement is yet another thing. So it's also the role of professional bodies and professional associations to ensure that the standards of practice that have been put in place are fully adhered to. So, enforcing standards of professional conduct is a key role for professional associations. They develop standards of competence and conduct for their members to enter the profession and to maintain their membership. The association also develops benchmarks for members who want to maintain their membership, terms and conditions for removal, as well as exclusion. Therefore, enforcement is achieved through ensuring compliance with the code of conduct, application of appropriate sanctions for their violations. And a self-regulating profession has a special responsibility to sanction members who are incompetent and found guilty of professional misconduct. In a nutshell, what we're saying here is that once standards have been defined, those standards must be enforced. Otherwise, there will be no need to come up with standards if they cannot be enforced. So that in doing so, it is the work of the professional bodies or regulatory bodies to ensure that these standards are adhered to. If a member fails to observe the standard as is required, then that member's membership can be revoked, can be terminated, and sometimes they can be completely removed from the role of professionals. And once that is done, then it means they may not be allowed to practice. Once you are unable to practice, then it means that the professional development is completely curtailed. So it is the responsibility of these bodies to ensure that members do what is appropriate. If for any reason these codes of conduct are persistently not adhered to, there are also instances where their violation might lead to the professional violation. In addition to removing such a member from their role of register, their association might also advise members of the public who are aggrieved to also seek legal redress in the courts of law, and through this, the standard are enforced. The other important role of professional association is accreditation process. Professional regulatory bodies also approve academic training programs in their professional field. They set minimum entry requirements for individuals aspiring to pursue academic program in their field of study. They also set standards and requirements for institutions that intend to offer academic programs in their fields. And professional bodies also set the minimum number of hours on academic programs, which is required to have, and other requirements that students must meet before they are certified qualified. Currently, there is a debate in Kenya as to whether professional associations of engineers in Kenya should continue approving courses, engineering courses at our Kenyan universities, or it should be the Commission for University Education. The Board of Engineers feel that the mandate is theirs, and the Commission for University Education feels that it's their work to approve all university programs, regardless as to whether they're professional programs or non-professional. So there's a tussle. Commission for University Education has threatened to go to court so that the matter is heard and determined by court. And as things stand, the engineering bodies still insist that it is still within their mandate to ensure that courses that are offered to Kenyan universities in engineering programs are certified and approved by them. hassle is there. Like we say, the engineers and other professional programs in other parts of the world, professional associations play a significant role in their approval. So how these matters go will set an important landmark and precedents for future professional programs and how they are run in the country. The students, for instance, of engineering of medicine that have been barred for education by the engineering body, and that means that without such education, they may not get employment or they may not be employed as engineers. So this matter will have to be addressed one way or the other. Otherwise, these people remain pivotal in the professional development of academic programs at both middle and higher level institutions. Another characteristic of professional is that it is licensed. Professional is regulated by an established corporate body through licensing of the practice. Why is it important for professionals to be licensed? Licensing aims at protecting the public against exploitation by incompetent practitioners. This is important because for one to be given the license by the respective professional body, then the person must show proof of knowledge and qualification in the area that he or she is seeking a license to practice in. So the person must be properly trained before he can be certified so through the provision of a license. So licensing is given so that we weed out people who are not properly trained or people who are not trained at all in the provision of services that ought to have been provided by professionals. So licensing separates qualified and non-qualified individuals in any given area of practice. But licensing also helps in increasing public faith in the professionals. For instance, if you visit a doctor and you establish that the doctor is not licensed, then you become doubtful as to whether that doctor is not only qualified, but also whether he or she will provide quality services. So licensing is also done to improve the public faith on the professionals. The regulatory body also provides code of ethics to guide professional practice and interaction with the public, so that licensing also reinforces the desire by the professional association and regulatory bodies where certain professionals belong to ensure that those particular professionals, they abide by set guidelines. Otherwise, if a person violates certain code of ethics or regulations that he or she is required to have, then the license can be cancelled, so that it helps in creating a relationship of trust between society and professionals. When you're licensed, then your integrity, your acceptability, the way that the public become more receptive to you because they believe that you are qualified. So, you must observe a code of ethics for that license to continue being offered.